Alright, how do I pick which guitar to use for this? And which guitar to use for this? Every so often, I get questions from people asking what types of guitars they should use for various parts of a song. Clean parts, distorted rhythm parts, lead parts. Today, I'm demonstrating and discussing my favorite guitars to use for various parts of a song. With enough creativity, I suppose technically you can use anything for anything, but it does make it a whole lot easier picking the right tool for the job. I will be focusing more on the metal side of things to align with the types of songs I usually do. However, that being said, especially with the clean part section, this will apply to the more chill stuff too. The aim of this video is to provide some information from a hobbyist's point of view, and to hopefully give some valuable insights and information for you. This can help you whether you're trying to pick a new guitar to add to your collection, or look for a general all-rounder. And this video is not sponsored by any of the brands mentioned or shown. These are all my personal guitars. No company asked me to make this video. So let's start with lead tones. Now, what would be prioritized here? And granted, all the discussion in this video is meant to be taken in the context of a full mix of a song, not guitars just on their own. So in this order, I tend to prioritize playability, stability, and then tone. And I put playability first because I need to be able to play the part well. Of course, it helps to practice. You should always practice. But when it comes time to record or perform, it helps having a really easy playing guitar. And maybe playability means something different to everyone. Maybe you like a particularly round fretboard radius. I personally prefer a more flatter one. Maybe you like thin necks, thick necks, medium action, high action, low action. For me personally, I like low action. And so meeting my criteria of a thin neck, flatter radius, low action, the guitars I tend to prefer are this one right here, the RGA622XH, the RG550 Genesis, and this one is in Road Flare Red, sorry if the lighting makes it look orange, and the RG5320. Other factors that come into play are scale length and number of strings. And I've got this Larada here to help me demonstrate. So for scale length, you want to pick something that will facilitate your playing. If you're going to be playing down low a lot and be doing a lot of stretches, you might not want a longer scale length. That's going to really strain you. But a shorter scale length is going to make that easy. You can see this is a multi-scale here. You can see how the longer length is going to stretch out your hand more. And then moving on to the higher frets, you're going to want something that will give you enough room to play, not too squeezed together, but not too far apart. And I think this is interesting because, of course, you can play a bunch of shreddy stuff up top with, say, 24.75-inch scale length, like on the Gibsons. I find those frets kind of close together. You might even consider a baritone scale length if you're going to be playing up here and you want some more room. I find the 25.5-inch scale length is the best compromise for me personally. And the number of strings, of course, if there's less strings, you don't have to mute as many while you're playing. Not to say you shouldn't have good muting technique, but with more strings comes a wider neck too. And maybe a 6-string neck, the width of that feels more comfortable to you. Maybe a 7 or 8-string neck feels more comfortable to you. These are all things that can help you decide which guitar to pick for your leads. All right, so I put stability second. Playability was first because I have to be able to play the part, and I need all the help I can get. But stability is also important. You can't be going out of tune every take, at least when you're trying to really nail the leads. Whenever I'm doing something instrumental, I have the lead guitars carrying the melody usually. And so with the amount of takes I have to do for that, going out of tune is just really unproductive. And so you might be asking, well, would an Evertune help? And I think for leads, it depends. It does change how the guitar feels to play. So if you're doing a lot of vibrato or bends, if you set it up into the bend zone, and I do have videos on that, as well as the drawbacks and advantages of the Evertune, it's not going to quite feel the same and you might not like it. And finally, why is tone the lowest priority of these three things? I find that if I play the lead line well and my tone is good enough, that's better than spending a whole bunch of time fiddling around with the tone and then not really practicing the leads, not trying to spend enough time to get the perfect take. Now, rhythm guitar. It's very important to get a tone that works well in your mix. Discussing basses and bass tone is out of scope of this video. We're talking about guitars. But it's going to be important for your guitar tone to work with the bass, because the bass does make a huge difference in your rhythm tone. Here's an example of rhythm guitars without bass and with bass. So the prioritization of the three things for my rhythm guitar choices are tone, stability, and then playability. So the first thing is tone, and it's very important to have a tone that, of course, sounds good, but works well with the bass tone, leaves room for the lead guitars, other instruments, the singer. Maybe you like a nice full sound, but there's a lot of other mid-rangey instruments, and you might have to scoop your mids. Maybe you might want to cut your upper treble to remove some hits. Maybe at 10K, maybe at 12K, whatever works. And these are all things that can help you pick a good sounding guitar, because you can have a guitar that sounds good in isolation, and you can have a guitar that sounds good in a mix. And of course, you're going to EQ it, mix it, master it, all that stuff. But again, it's important to pick the right tool for the job from the get-go. New strings always help. Adjusting your pickup height helps. Raise them to make them hotter, lower them to mellow things out. What tuning are you going to use? Are you going to use a 6-string in a drop tuning like drop C? Do you want to go ultra low? Maybe you need a baritone guitar or something with more strings. Are you trying to match a particular sound where everyone uses the same type of guitar? For example, a really stratty tone. Theoretically, you could EQ anything to sound like anything, but it can help making choices that match common patterns if you're trying to hit a particular genre. So I put stability as second, but it was really difficult to place the second behind tone. And I'm talking about how well the guitar holds its tuning, but also its setup too. Does the neck bow a lot when temperatures change? Do you have to reset up the whole thing when the humidity changes from day to night? The only reason why stability is second, because I guess technically, while it does take a long time, you could tune between each take, but that is pretty awful. Maybe you picked the wrong guitar. But if you really need a particular tone to match with the bass, to make room for the singer or other instruments, sometimes it feels like it's the only way, picking a guitar that's a bit less stable. Although that being said, rhythm parts sound particularly bad out of tune, especially if you're playing chords with distortion. Being in tune is a great tip in general for sounding good. So one thing I think about when considering stability is, of course, the type of bridge. We've all encountered a guitar with a Floyd Rose or floating bridge that just won't stay in tune because it's not set up correctly. And so a quality fixed bridge can be a great choice. And this RG5121 is my choice when I want to do rhythm guitar with a fixed bridge. The Fishman-influenced modern pickups are great too for high gain stuff. Not saying you need to absolutely have Fishmans or active pickups in general. I do love my passives too. And while we're talking about fixed bridge guitars, I do like the RGA21P1PB. This has the Gibraltar standard 3 bridge, whereas the RG5121 has the standard 2. I made a video talking about the differences between these, but they're not that much different. Moving on to the next type of bridge, the floating bridge. Make sure yours is set up properly, either by you or a guitar tech. And when they are set up, they are very stable. It's also possible to block your floating bridges too. Depending on how you do it, it's completely reversible. I like to tape some guitar picks together, put them right in there, make sure the bridge is level. You can also use wood blocks. Completely reversible, just take them out and you're good to go. So the RG5320 does tend to work for me. The fusion edges seem to fit pretty well into my mixes. As time goes on, I'm liking the DiMarzio tone zone more and more too. So any guitar that meets the criteria of sounding good and being pretty stable with these pickups would be great. While I do prefer using the RG622XH for leads, I don't mind using it for rhythm. The Evertune is a lifesaver for rhythm guitar. Since I'm usually not doing any vibratos or bends, except for emphasizing the occasional pinch harmonic, the Evertune helps a huge deal. It's not magic, it's a mechanical system, but it really holds all the strings in tune no matter how hard I hit them. I don't have to worry about pitch drift. It's easy to set up so the intonation is good, and this all helps avoid unwanted dissonance. I can add thirds on top of power chords without having to check the tuning before the take. And so naturally the Solar AC6BR is one of my top choices. It sounds great under distortion, it sounds good in a mix, it's very playable, and we'll get to playability soon. And of course the Evertune works as advertised. You don't necessarily need high gain pickups either. The A1.6 I have here, the Solar Duncans, I think they're considered middle gain, and it doesn't sound as flashy or as powerful as something, say, with actives, but I find this does seem to always just work in dense mixes with lots of guitars. And what about the Tune-o-matic style bridge? Those are great too. A lot of incredible songs have been put out using guitars with that style of bridge. For me personally, I don't like how it feels against my hand when I'm palm muting, just personal preference. If you like it, power to you. But since this is a video about which guitars I would pick, I don't have any to showcase that are my favorite. If you did pick up a guitar with that though, I'd recommend putting some foam or vibration dampening material behind the bridge so you don't have the sympathetic vibrations ringing out when you're trying to do things like palm muting. And now playability, this was difficult to prioritize last. It's important to be able to play the chords you need to, important to be able to make the stretches if you are doing any, important to be able to do the palm mutes, the chugs, anything you're letting ring. Maybe you're muting more treble side, make sure the controls aren't in the way. Make sure the bridge is comfortable to palm mute against. But also consider the setup too. Not just how fast you can play the guitar, but does it wear down your hands? Is the action too high for you? Is the action too low for you? Is the guitar you're picking for rhythm comfortable to play over many rhythm takes? And what are you playing for those rhythms? Are you riffing? Are you holding bar chords? Make sure it's comfortable to do that on the guitar. Now, cleans. I incorporate cleans as a sort of lower energy section for various songs of mine, but I also do make some chill background music too, and that uses a lot of clean guitar. All the background music I use in my videos I've made. My priorities for picking a guitar for clean sections are tone, playability, and then stability. And that's because the whole point of me picking a different guitar for cleans is to sound good doing it. I do care about the clean sections, but for me, they're not a huge priority in making the song. So that's why tone is number one. Playability is important after tone because usually I'm holding bar chords for various things, either playing the whole chord or letting ring specific notes, arpeggiating them. And holding those bar chords, I find it's important to have a guitar that's nice and easy to play and comfortable to hold those bar chords so I'm not straining my hand. I really don't want to underestimate these sections of the song just because they're not the flashiest parts. I don't want these to be where I get any injuries. I don't want any injuries, period. Maybe this is a priority for you too when you're playing cleans. And then stability was the third and last priority, and that's because my clean sections are typically shorter, so there's less time for the guitar to go out of tune. And for the songs that have all clean guitar, for what I'm writing, it's not too intense. So what are my choices for clean guitars? Well, it depends on how bright or how mellow I want them to sound. One of my go-tos is the Abasi Concepts Space T. I know it looks like a Telecaster melted in the sun, but hey, I like it. It's playable. I think it sounds good. These are Fishman Actives. They're not true single coils, just because there's too much AM noise around here. True singles are unfortunately a non-starter for me. But I really love how it sounds, especially the neck position. It's not too bright, of course it's not muddy. In general, this guitar kind of works like a Telecaster does. Although again, of course it's not true single coil sound. When I want more mellow cleans, I like how the Air Norton sounds in this J Custom. This is an RG8570Z. In general, I like the cleans of the Air Norton in the neck position. This guitar sounds particularly mellow with it too. I also seem to like the neck pickup tone of the RGA21P1PB. When it comes to position 4 type cleans, I know the Stratocaster is iconic, it's classic, and that does sound good. I personally prefer an HSH pickup configuration, and I really love how the cleans sound on position 4 of the RG550 Genesis. And this one is stock, it doesn't have any fancy pickups, these are just what it came with. I love how it sounds clean. An honorable mention here is the Abasi Concepts Larada Master Series 8. I don't really use this tone too much, but if you're looking for that kind of thing, this definitely delivers. And it's my go-to for those few times where I do need it. Some overall thoughts now. Would I use one guitar for everything? And yes, that would be possible. In picking just one guitar for everything, it's important to think about how tones are relative to each other. And what I mean by that is if you're playing your guitar and you're playing, say, distortion, like a distorted rhythm section, and you've got a really bright tone, and then you change tones for a part of the song to something that isn't dark but isn't as bright, it's going to sound a lot darker than if you had just been playing that middle ground tone the whole time. Your ears and everyone else's ears who were listening to that song up to that point had gotten used to the bright tone, so switching to something different tone-wise is really going to stand out, maybe not in the way you like. Whereas if you're playing that bright tone and then you switch to a different tone, maybe it's a clean tone, maybe it's a lead tone, but it's also fairly bright, it's going to fit in better. Not saying your mixes should all be bright, this is just for example. Or say you're looking at neon colors all day and then you come home and you look at a regular shade of red, it's going to look really dull in comparison. So if your guitar sounds a certain way with distortion, but clean it sounds completely different, maybe not as bright, that might not work for you. Of course, if you know enough about changing your amp settings or plugin settings using EQ, you can get around that. In this example, you'd have your cleans maybe add more treble. But in the spirit of trying to pick the right tool for the right job, if there is that radical difference and you don't like messing around with tones, you just want to use the same one for everything, that is something to consider. I do use single guitars for whole songs when I'm doing review videos, for example. But whenever I do that, I do have to modify my favorite preset. presets. I'll design a certain preset like my rhythm preset with a few guitars in mind, the ones that I really like recording with. So my rhythm presets, I have my rhythm guitars that I like to use in mind. But when I'm doing a video where it's one particular guitar, I do have to slightly modify it. When you're picking one guitar, you will have to make compromises. Both physically, you can see the neck pickup is further back on this particular guitar because it has 27 frets. Or maybe you want a guitar with the neck pickup further up and it only has 21 or 22 frets. Then you'd be making the compromise of not having those extra frets. Maybe you really love how a guitar sounds with active pickups under distortion, but their cleans aren't your cup of tea. There's a compromise there. But I don't think these compromises are necessarily bad. As players, we have a lot of time practicing our instruments, recording with them, performing with them. We know exactly how they sound and react. And if we compare them in our heads with other guitars we've played, there might be a night and day difference. But to the average listener, listening to our songs, our full mixes, our live performances, if they're just listening, they're probably not going to be jumping out saying, oh, you're using this kind of guitar and not that kind of guitar. They're not going to be criticizing you for using an RG550 Genesis 4th position on the pickup selector with the cleans in your mix that they're listening to through Spotify. These compromises are okay to make. Now, you can also have a guitar that covers one or two needs of yours. You don't necessarily need to have a guitar for every type of thing under the sun. If you never ever play jazz, you're probably not going to need a jazz guitar. And for the times you do want to try jazz out, you can use just one of the guitars you have. You can even go so far as to say if you're willing to use pitch shifting technology and the software or hardware you have doesn't produce too many artifacts or glitches, you might not even need extended range guitars, 7-string guitars, or downtuning. Of course, the real thing will always sound great. One other thing to consider when choosing one guitar for everything is that you're going to have to maintain it really well. If anything breaks down, any wires come loose, a setup needs to be done, of course you have to do it or else there's no music. And you might not always have time to do that. You know, you've got your day job, you've got other responsibilities like pets or children, you have to run errands. Sometimes you only have 10 or 20 minutes to play guitar to record that part or to practice the song. You'll also need to be comfortable putting playing wear on it. This is my 2013 RG655, this is my first Prestige, and I've dinged up the bottom sides here in band practices, dropping it against the table, things like that. Why not use a single extended range guitar for everything, like this 7-string here? And I mostly answered that in the lead section of this video, but playability and scale length, things like that. If you love how a 25.5-inch scale length feels to play leads on or play rhythms on, and you know you're going to be playing leads that day, you don't have to choose a 7-string with a baritone scale length. It will feel different, it might throw you off, but maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you prefer to play leads on a longer scale length. Those are some things to consider. But hey, what do you think? How do you pick which guitar to use for various parts of a song? Whether you're recording, having a jam session, performing? Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, this is YouTube, so I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it, join the Discord, check out the socials. If you're looking for something cool to listen to, my music is on all major streaming services, High Z Productions. I do original songs, video game music covers, and hey, as always, peace.